So in a previous video, I had said to pay attention to what's going on in Israel. The reason being is because Israel is basically the poster boy. Like a lot of things are basically being trial run through places like Israel. For example, the efficacy of what they're giving everybody, right? I did a video on that, basically debunking a lot of the information that came out from Israel. Now, this video came out not too long ago, and I kind of had a feeling something like this was going to happen from previous tinfoil hat information that I've come across way back. I read too much. I read way too much. So I'm going to take a listen to the video and then an interesting article. We're also going to touch on crypto for a lot of you people out there that like crypto, especially for Bitcoin, what's going on in the space moving forward, seeing baby steps. Let's watch this video.
אנחנו עובדים על הבאת עוד 36 מיליון חיסונים לאזרחי ישראל כדי להבטיח את בריאות אזרחינו. אני רוצה להסביר למה. החיסונים שיש לנו, אף אחד לא יודע את תוקף עמידתם. אנחנו רשמנו בדרכון הירוק חצי שנה, אבל אולי זה שנה, אנחנו מקווים שיותר. אנחנו צריכים להיערך לתרחיש הגרוע. התרחיש הגרוע אומר שנצטרך לחסן כל חצי שנה 9 מיליון אזרחים בשני חיסונים.
So basically, you heard it there, folks, that according to, and this is the prime minister, president, whatever they refer to them as in Israel, right? And as he said there, that's why they're stockpiling more of shot, right? Because as he said, worst case scenario is that it only lasts 6 months and that we're going to have to re-stick you. Now, with that said, this morning, I come across an article here from the Wall Street Journal talking about basically the exact same thing. So for a lot of people who thought that this was all going to go away, it all started with just 15 days. And of course, we're 300 and something days past, right? It all started with wear a mask, and now take this. And people thought if we just, we'll just do this one more thing and then we're going to go back to normal. And the reality is that everything that is happening now has absolutely nothing to do with the context, the narrative that they give to people. Because you can tell that none of it is scientific, and most of it is not even logical, let alone scientific. But for a lot of people who basically want to get back to, going to basketball games, which they refer to, if you want to go to a concert, and even in the UK, if you just want to go to your local bar to have a drink, they're like, sorry, you got to scan to get in. This is a very similar system. It's basically like the Chinese credit score 2.0 moving forward. Now, for a lot of people who are just going to be like, I ain't taking it. Well, I got news for you. You may have some repercussions moving forward. And I'm just saying that you need to be prepared for that, which is why. And a lot of people who think I'm just going to start my own job, I'm going to start my own business, unless you can do it online, that there may be limits to what moving forward, what they will allow you to do, which is why I said, if you are an individual who has a skill and you're thinking, I ain't taking it, like I said in my previous videos, that the time to make moves is sooner rather than later. Just like in Nazi Germany, there were some Jews who saw the writing on the wall and said, fuck it, I'm out. Then there were those who had the opportunity to leave, but they had to leave everything behind. Right? They just, whatever they could carry, they took it and they left. And then there were those who were going to stay and fight, which are some of these Americans who were like, I'm going to fight for my country. If you want to bend, you do that. And all those people died. And then there were the last ones, the ones that went into the oven. Now, of course, this is just history basically repeating itself. A level of tyranny that we have seen in the past. Right? And of course, it rears itself yet again, primarily because nobody pushes back, just like during those times. And of course, the primarily ones who that they targeted were related to income disparities, which is what went on during that time period from World War I, right? The outcome, the because they put restrictions on Germany, it eventually is what led an individual like Hitler to come to power, because the people were impoverished. And who were the ones who they primarily targeted during 2020? It was overwhelmingly the black and minority community, and they talked about income disparities, and they got everybody riled up. And what do you see now, right? What do you see now? Everything is white supremacy. Everything is white racism. Very similarly to what went on during that time period, where you had a man who ironically looked nothing like the people that he was basically pitching to, and he became their leader, very similarly to the community that they pitched this particular ideal to, namely the black and minority communities in Hispanic neighborhoods or other dark or brown skinned people. And he has now in essence become the champion for these individuals. And who is the target? White people. That's why they feel so comfortable always constantly targeting white people. It's because white people in essence are becoming the new Jews. And that's why they can get targeted. You can talk about them, you can make racist comments about them, you can have politicians, you can have everybody. Everything is about white supremacy, right? If something happens in the news, it's always white supremacy. What do you see? You see white people walking around, white silence is violence, right? It's literally the same thing, just we've moved forward in time. Now we're going to move over from that conversation, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's been happening recently. We're seeing numerous sightings of violence, right? In California, there's I think four people were killed, and you're going to see more of this moving forward. Some of it could be false flags, some of it could be related to just poverty that's going on. You have a lot of people, I think it's about 40 million or 50 million that are out of work. So there's a lot of tension going on between peoples. And so don't be surprised if you keep on seeing more issues with gun violence, and eventually the government is going to make a run for the guns, eventually, because they know, like I said, America has more guns than 46% of the globe. And it's going to happen. In my opinion, like I've said in other tweets, in my opinion, what's going to happen moving forward is they're going to have basically a food for guns. It's already happening in places like in Philadelphia. They're already telling people, well, bring in your guns. We're going to give you coupons for food, because they're so poor, they're impoverished. Many of the people there have lost their job, and there's, maybe they're not making enough with what's it called, unemployment, right? But you can look it up. I've shown it and texted on other videos where they're talking about, you're seeing it more and more and more pop up. More Americans are, of course, going hungry. Moving along. So for a lot of people who are interested in cryptocurrency, this is actually an interesting article talking about Libri, the library, however you pronounce it, is a similar platform to things like YouTube, right? Where you can post videos, etc. The difference being is that it is decentralized, right? It is removed. There's no way for the government to attack their servers, because the servers are outside of the country, very similarly to what you saw what happened with Parler, right? Parler got taken down because Parler was on Amazon's websites, and that's why they were so quickly to be able to take Parler down, due to free speech, infringing upon free speech, because they were saying that there was terrorism or whatever excuse that they want to utilize. So now they're going for Libri, but they're doing it a different way. Right? It says Libri warns that SEC lawsuit could be disastrous for the crypto industry. This is because the condition outlined in the complaint could classify most crypto tokens as securities. Right? And so this similarly happened, for example, with XRP, where XRP got classified as a security, and then of course ended up being removed from the exchange. Now, again, this doesn't necessarily mean that, of course, it's going to infringe on things like Bitcoin. In my opinion, Most Bitcoin, just Google it, most Bitcoin, it's like 70-80% of all Bitcoin comes out of China, right? So you have Americans who are buying Bitcoin from China, and China is taking your fiat and basically just using it to buy, they're just using it to buy assets here in the US. Now, with that said, I was not shocked when I saw individuals like Elon Musk and what's his name, Mark Cuban, talking about it. These are people who are deeply in bed with China. Mark Cuban, deeply in bed with China. Elon Musk, deeply in bed with China. Right? Elon Musk was able to have his own factories in China. All the other Chinese people who want to create a factory, like for example, NIO, which is another EV company, they had to use the ones that are built already, that are regulated by the government. But do you imagine that Elon Musk would get more freedom than their own people without having to make some sort of a deal? I don't think so. And of course, Mark Cuban and the NBA are deeply in bed. China supports them very heavily. But I'm going to leave the link to this article for those who are interested in reading it. For a lot of people who think that everything is just going to go over smoothly, I'm going to have my Bitcoin, we're going to be decentralized, government ain't going to do nothing. You're kidding yourself, man. You're kidding yourself. But like I said before, if your goal is to live free, you may want to make moves sooner rather than later.